Just who are the biggest fallers in Dynasty value over the last month? We're talking about that in today's video. As always, give us that like and subscribe. We are trying to get to 700 subscribers by the end of October. I think we're right around 650, 645. So hopefully we can get there. I'm a little late on this, guys. I'm sorry. I made a Dynasty Risers video. And that's been out for 4 or 5 days already. Meant to put this out after it, but things came up, got busy. But here I am talking about some fallers. In Dynasty, it's really, really important to have a feel for the market and how people are, how they value people, who's falling, who's rising, so that you can buy low, sell high. That's the key in Dynasty, right? Is just being in touch and in tune with the market. Anthony Richardson has fallen from QB8 to QB14, and I completely understand why. Not only has he missed time again from an injury, but he just hasn't played very well for fantasy football. It's one thing if he's out there and the games he's out there, he's putting up points like he did last week, right? But the fact of the matter is, like Anthony Richardson, and I'm just double checking this, he only has one good game, and it's a really good game. 27 points in week 1, 12.9, 7.1, 5.2. You cannot win with that. You cannot win with your quarterback getting under 15 points, especially a guy that you banked on being 20-plus points a game. That being said, I still believe in Anthony Richardson. The guy's still the youngest starting quarterback in the entire NFL. We have to remember that he didn't play much in college. That was the biggest knock. Didn't play much in college, missed basically his entire first year. So comparing him to guys like, that are coming in and doing well from the beginning, like the Jaden Daniels and guys like that, is a little bit unfair. I know that's what we want to see, but I just think he is a little bit of a project. That being said, he needs to stay healthy so he can grow as a project quarterback. I still think he can be QB1 overall in a season. I'm not saying his dynasty value, but he can put up QB1 type of numbers. And I'll take a chance on these guys. What we're learning with the quarterback position is that if you don't run the ball, you're not really a difference maker in fantasy. Like even guys like Patrick Mahomes, we're seeing struggle mightily, right? And for fantasy, he's not great because he doesn't run the ball. So Anthony Richardson's still one of those quarterbacks that can run the ball. I still believe in him and that he can kind of turn things around. Trevor Lawrence from QB13 to QB18. We finally saw a good week from Trevor Lawrence after 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. He had 4 straight weeks of under 15 points to start off the 2024 season, put up 22.2 last week. That being said, he was playing the Colts, which is a pretty easy schedule. Next up, he gets the Bears, which is tough. Patriots, which they could be tough. Packers. We'll see. I don't know, man. With Trevor Lawrence, obviously the generational talent type of stuff, I think is kind of out the window. But my feeling also is, man, if we're witnessing guys like Sam Darnold going and starting off the year, the first 5 weeks, throwing over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns, right? Like Sam Darnold, who has the arm talent, I understand. But Sam Darnold's averaging 225 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Are you telling me Trevor Lawrence can't do that? Are you really telling me Trevor Lawrence can't do that? So, I just think there's still some hope. Now, he's not going to be generational QB1 overall, which he probably was at one point. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence ever got to that point, but, I don't think we're ever going to see that. But you telling me he can't be like Sam Darnold? He can't throw for 250 and 2 most weeks? Come on. That's ridiculous. So hopefully he gets a good coaching staff in there. Every offensive coordinator, offensive coach wants to come in here and teach this team. He has Brian Thomas. He has Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, ETN, Tank Bigsby. He has good supporting cast. We just need, I think, a better offensive coordinator in there, an offensive coach. And then Tua Tagovailoa, obviously falling from QB 16 to 26. We kind of knew this was always in the cards for Tua. Heading into last year, people were nervous because can he stay healthy? I don't think he's going to retire from football. Now, he may be one concussion away from retiring from football, which is scary. But I still think like I think we're slightly overreacting where we're putting him, dropping him down to like Daniel Jones, Derek Carr level. And it's like, okay, if Tua comes back and, starts to look like Tua of last year, he's going to shoot right back up to a top 20, top 16 quarterback. So, there's a potential buy low opportunity here with Tua, but I would be a little bit careful about like overpaying for him because we still don't know when he's for sure going to be back. And, he is kind of one concussion away from potentially retiring. Bryce Young from QB 21 to 31, not looking good for Bryce Young. He's probably going to continue to fall. Maybe he gets back in there if the Panthers continue to lose with Andy Dalton. It's kind of like, well, you might as well just kind of get back in there, right? If you're going to lose with Andy Dalton, might as well lose with Bryce Young just to be 100% sure that this guy doesn't have it. I still look at people like Geno Smith and Sam Darnold and these guys who get away from toxic situations and go into situations where the teams have confidence in them. They have weapons to throw to. They have good offensive coordinators, and then they become, top 15 quarterbacks in fantasy. And part of me thinks like, can Bryce Young be that? Right now, this might not come for a couple years, right? Just like it didn't for Geno, just like it didn't for Sam Darnold, but it still could come. So if he continues to fall, I'm always going to be like, I don't think anyone's going to drop him anytime soon, but if someone drops him, I'm definitely going to hold on to him, right? Like, because we're seeing these guys who, finally go into situations and it's like, oh, hey, I have good receivers and a good coordinator and a good coach. So maybe that happens with Bryce Young, but man, does not look good. Into the running backs, obviously CMC from RB4 to RB10. And this is going to happen with these old RBs, right? I mean, it's still kind of amazing that he's only at RB10. Like, I'm worried that we're not going to get much from CMC this year, and he's going to continue to fall. And unfortunately, the reality is he's a 28-year-old running back who has Achilles tendonitis in both legs and both feet. He's going to continue to fall. And this is always the risk with these guys. These older running backs is like, yeah, they're helping you win now, which is fine. I'm totally fine with approaching running backs from a year-to-year basis, even more so now this year than any other year. But just know with these older ones, this is what can happen, right? The bottom can fall out. So Travis Etienne is another one from RB8 to RB18. Man, I'm just worried about the whole Jaguars situation in general. I know Etienne, they signed his 5th year, right? His 5th year option. But the fact that they're potentially getting a whole new coaching staff in there, if the Jags don't turn it around, they're 1-4 right now. If they don't start to win more, Doug Peterson's gone. You get a whole new coaching staff in there. That makes me a little bit worried about Etienne. I'm already worried about Etienne that Tank Bigsby looks better. I was never the biggest Etienne guy. He did prove me wrong last year. And then this year, it kind of went back to what I was afraid of a little bit. So I'm worried about Etienne. I really am. I think this could be an issue, especially if a new coaching staff comes in. And maybe we saw the best year from Etienne, even though he's a younger running back, on a rookie contract, who was a 1st-round pick. Kind of crazy to think, but man, just running backs in general, like, we got to start thinking of these guys from year-to-year basis. There's very, very few guys, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, that we can project that they're going to be the guy for 2-3 years. Other than that, though, guys, like, we need to start looking at it like, what can you do for me this year? This year, right? Braylon Allen being ranked over Derrick Henry makes no sense at all. Okay? What can you do for me this year? Braylon Allen is not going to win you leagues this year unless Breece Hall gets hurt. And even then, I'm a little bit skeptical because that whole Jets offense. Derrick Henry could be the RB1, top 5 RB this year and win you leagues. Why are we thinking about 2025 with running backs when we see new coaching staffs come in? They want the guys that fit their system. If running backs get hurt, whatever. There's a lot that can happen. Trey Benson's another one. And it's kind of an interesting one because I think again, when I look at these running backs that are drafted, like, we all knew Trey Benson was not going to overtake Connor. Why was he RB16 if we all knew this, right? We all knew he wasn't going to overtake James Conner at all. Like, at least I knew that. I knew we were going to have 1 year of James Conner. Now, maybe we thought Trey Benson was going to work in a little bit. We're going to see something from him, and we haven't seen anything from him, right? I don't even know what his stats are on the year. I'm just double checking that. He has 25 carries in 4 games and 2 catches. So actually, he's had a couple games, 9 and 11 carries, but we all knew that James Conner was the guy. Arizona loved him. They were going to ride him 1 more year. He was on a good offense and things like that. How I'm going to approach this now is when these rookie running backs who I think are pretty good, but they get drafted into situations where they're going to be the backup for a year or 2, I'm not going to touch them in dynasty rookie drafts. I'm not going to spend an early second-round pick on Trey Benson. And then when we get 5 weeks into the season and James Conner is dominating the backfield and then Trey Benson starts to fall in value, then I'll trade for him. Then I'll try to acquire these guys, right? Because there's a good chance that Trey Benson does nothing all year and he falls even further than this. So, I think it's some kind of strategy I'm going to be taking. Javonte Williams from RB38 to RB21. Sorry, I think that's opposite. RB21 to RB38 because this is a Fowler's video. The Javonte, man, I think he was RB2 at one point in Dynasty before he tore his ACL after his rookie year, I believe. He was like the RB2. And it's been a fall. He's actually down to RB39 now. So, man, this is tough. This is tough to see with Javonte. That being said, Javonte Williams, I think, has had a couple good weeks. He had a good week last week. He had a bunch of carries, a bunch of catches. 13 and a half points in half PPR is not bad. RB36 on the year. I think Denver's offense is kind of starting to get going a little bit with the rookie Bo Nix. I actually think that Javonte could be like a sneaky low-end RB2 the rest of the year, but he's fallen a lot, and it's unfortunate to see. A couple more running backs here. Rachaad White from RB15 to RB33. And again, this is just another example. Like that range of running backs from like RB12 to RB20 every year, they just change so much every single year, right? And I think I'm just going to start trading these guys after the season. Rachaad White, you just came off a really good season. You're the RB15 according to keeptradecut and dynasty value. See ya, because you can easily fall to RB33 if things don't work out for you the next year. And we just see it constantly happening because I guess people are valuing these players as longer than 1 year assets. And, that's a big mistake. It's a big mistake. It's interesting to me. I think I'm really going to start looking to trade these RB20s to RB12s to 20s during the offseason and get good value for them. And then just take my chance with a guy a guy ranked as the RB30. I trade Rachaad White, I get a second-round pick or a first-round pick, God forbid, and a running back that's ranked as the RB30 or whatever. And then when the season starts, that running back that's ranked in the RB30 can jump up to the RB15 easily, right? So, things like that. Like a Brian Robinson, for example. I don't think he was as low as RB30. I'm just looking at it right now. What his all-time value was, but heading into the season, he went down to the RB. Yeah, he was the RB30, RB31, RB32, kind of heading into the season. Like, what if you traded Rachaad White and a second, or you got a second and Brian Robinson, Rachaad White? You'd be laughing your way to the bank right now. I think I'm going to start approaching running backs this way. I could lose. I'm not saying they're all going to hit, but I think you're going to hit more often than not. And then Tajay Spears is another one of those where he at one point was a top 15 running back, I believe, all because we thought he was going to be the guy. And we do this too often in fantasy. Like, we think we know what teams are going to do, right? Tajay Spears got as high as the RB18 in August of this year. This was long after Tony Pollard was signed. At the beginning of the year, he was the RB14. Tajay Spears was the RB14 after the Super Bowl of 2023 season. Why? Why? Because we thought he was going to do well. I know we need to project a little bit in fantasy, but so often, especially when there's new coaches coming in, these guys don't turn out how we think they're going to turn out. So, yeah, I'm definitely selling running backs in that 12 to 20 range, 100%. Garrett Wilson, onto the wide receivers. Garrett Wilson here has fallen from the wide receiver 6 to 13. I'm a little bit worried that we're never going to see what we thought we were going to see from Garrett Wilson. It's unfortunate. And guys like Malik Neighbors are showing us that sometimes there's players who are good enough that just don't need running back or good quarterbacks, right? Like they can have average quarterbacks and they're still awesome. Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors. There's guys that are just different, right? Even Jamar Chase to a certain extent last year with Browning. Garrett Wilson just doesn't seem to be one of those guys. That Jets team, I think, is a sinking ship. They just fired their coach because of Rodgers. Like, I don't know, man. I'm worried about it. It sucks because I was a big Garrett Wilson guy. Still think he's a very good player. Still think he's going to be a top 24 wide receiver, although he might be top 24 now because of that last week. He's a wide receiver 20, but before that big game, his 22-point game, he didn't have a game over 12 points yet this year. So it's unfortunate. I'm a big Garrett Wilson fan. I just don't know. I don't see the path of that Jets team. Like, where do they go after Rodgers? They're not going to be top of the draft type of team. They're going to be fighting for a playoff spot, 8-9, 9-8. That's not going to be good enough to get a quarterback. I just don't know how that situation gets better. And honestly, I don't really see Rodgers coming back unless this team turns it around and makes a deep playoff run. Michael Pittman from wide receiver 25 to 36, he continues to fall. Another unfortunate situation. I still believe, like I said, in Anthony Richardson, and part of that belief is that he can become a competent passer. He's never going to be the most accurate. My worry about Michael Pittman is he's not going to get the deep bomb passes and touchdowns, and I don't think he's going to score much around the red zone if Anthony Richardson is the quarterback, because I think all that's going to go to Jonathan Taylor or Anthony Richardson. So there is concern with Michael Pittman. And honestly, there was concern with Michael Pittman even before this year. His numbers, his total numbers were better than his per game numbers the last couple of years. Like, you look at Michael Pittman, this is PPR, wide receiver 20 in 2022. But wide receiver 25 in points per game, which, it's not a huge change, but it is a change. Wide receiver 13 in 2023 in PPR, down to wide receiver 18 in points per game. So just a couple of things there that I would, caution people to look at a little bit. So on to the next one here, Tank Dell. This is another guy that I loved, man. I was a big Tank Dell guy coming into last year, not even after he went off. It was more about, what I saw in college. And then this is disappointing. Obviously, Nico's the man. There's no question there. But Stephon Diggs is a top 12 wide receiver to start the year in all formats, I think. Wide receiver 10, Stephon Diggs is. I thought Tank Dell was going to at least be second on this team. I was wrong. And even when Nico Collins got hurt, Tank Dell did nothing. They use guys like Xavier Hutchinson more. I don't know what's going on with Dell. He was so good last year. CJ Stroud loves him, but they're just not connecting. I still have hope. And if he does fall even further, I'm going to try and buy low on him. But, man, this is very disappointing to see. Xavier Worthy is an interesting one, falling from 19 to 25. Even though Xavier Worthy is the wide receiver 24 on the year, that's a little strange, right? You would at least think he would stay where he was at, kind of right around the top 20 guy. If you're telling me a rookie wide receiver finishes as the wide receiver 24 on the year, they should be ranked higher, right? Especially when attached to Mahomes and stuff. I think people are thinking he should be a little bit more, and we'll see now that Rashee Rice is hurt. We've only had one game here with Rashee Rice and missing basically the entire year. And, Xavier Worthy, he got the touchdown. It was a rushing touchdown, but he also got 6 targets. Only caught 3 of them. So I don't know. My worry about Worthy is that it's a little bit like Quentin Johnston in that the opportunity's there. And because the opportunity is there, if he doesn't perform, he's gonna fall. He's gonna fall. Even if he has a decent season, if he doesn't have a really good season, if he doesn't have 900 yards or 7-8 touchdowns, people are gonna drop him because they say, "Hey, you're with Mahomes. Rashee Rice got hurt. Marquise Brown got hurt, right? Like you should be the guy." So just keep that in mind. I will say that you look at Rashee Rice's numbers last year, he didn't really get going until kind of the second half. Rashee Rice, the first few weeks in half PPR, 10.1, 3, 8.4, 4.7, 11.3. That's the first 5 weeks. So after the first 5 weeks, Rashee Rice was the wide receiver 50 in total points in half PPR. And the first 10 weeks, Rashee Rice was the wide receiver 43. And then they had their bye week. And then from that point on, Rashee Rice was awesome, right? From weeks 11 to 18, which is after their bye, Rashee Rice was the wide receiver 14. So Xavier Worthy at this point in their first 5 is outproducing Rashee Rice. So I don't know, just something to think about as he maybe continues to fall. Jalen Waddle, again, it's you got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill here, both falling significantly because of the Tua situation. I will say this, especially with Waddle, I think he's still a sneaky buy low. Like he's a good receiver, man, and Tua's going to come back this year. Tua's going to come back, and he could be the focal point of the offense next year, depending on what happens with Tyreek Hill. So just something to consider there. Something to consider there. Sorry, I was just reading a weird message. I still like Jalen Waddle. I think he's a very, very talented player, and hopefully Tua can come back and we can see a little bit of that offense. Yeah. Into the tight ends here, Mark Andrews, tight end 7 to tight end 17, and I understand why. Another thing I'll say about Mark Andrews, again, I'm not guaranteeing anything here, but I find it hard to believe that Mark Andrews, who, by the way, if you take out the game where he left early last year with his injury that ended his season, where he only played like 15% of the snaps, if you take that game out, he was the tight end 1 in points per game last year, over Laporta, over Kelsey, Mark Andrews. So that would have been 2 years that we've, in the last, 1, 2, 3, 2 of the last 3 years where Mark Andrews was the tight end 1, right? I find it hard to believe that this is what Mark Andrews is now, that he's basically a de facto offensive lineman who can't catch the ball anymore. I find it really hard to believe. Now, he did have 5 targets, 4 catches for 55 yards. I just find it hard to believe, man. And I think I might buy low on Mark Andrews right now. One thing I will say is he had a similar injury to if he had a similar injury to Tony Pollard. What was Tony Pollard in 2022 playoff where he broke his leg, and you remember Tony Pollard last year basically said it wasn't until week 10 or 11 where he felt normal, right? Mark Andrews had that same injury, right? And so I think there's a little bit of that. Also, Mark Andrews had a car accident that he was involved in. And also, Mark Andrews didn't play in preseason really. So I think we're going to see him come on a little bit more. I just can't think that Mark Andrews is a 1 target, 0 catch type of tight end now. I just really can't. I can't force myself to believe it. Evan Ingram falling 5 spots. I mean, again, he gets hurt. I think it's a little bit of an overreaction because he could be back this week. And I think he kind of just picks up where he left off. So, he's 30 years old, but he could still have a good 2-3 years here. I think this is a slight overreaction, although I think it's also, I'm in the boat of like tight ends 8 through 15. I'm selling high on because I think I can get better value for them. But now I'm looking at guys like Andrews and Ingram falling out of that top 15. I'm thinking, I might buy low on them. Luke Musgrave is also in this list. And I was telling you guys from when they were drafted, everyone was taking Musgrave after they were drafted in Dynasty rookie drafts in the 2nd round. And I was looking at it and say Tucker Kraft was drafted as a 3rd round pick. Tucker Kraft was a good college tight end, and you can get him for free. Why are we doing this? And then Musgrave came out, was the starter to start the year, gets hurt, and then Tucker Kraft basically does what Musgrave was doing, right? The second half of the season. And then the number one thing I pointed to was their playoff games. Luke Musgrave was healthy, Tucker Kraft was healthy, and they went with Tucker Kraft over Musgrave. And I was telling people that all offseason. Why is Musgrave ranked as a top? I think he was even higher than this at one point. Let me double check here. The keep trade cut value, because I'm pretty sure that Musgrave was even higher than tight end 18. Luke Musgrave, now he's down to tight end 25, by the way, so he's continuing to fall. Luke Musgrave at the end of last year. Was the tight end 16, tight end 15, right? Tight end 15, tight end 16. Okay, that's where Luke Musgrave was. And I was telling people, guys, they went with Tucker Kraft. They used Tucker Kraft in the playoff game, even when Musgrave was healthy. The writing's on the wall. And look at us now. So just if you don't follow the channel, hey, follow it for that advice. Am I always right? Hell no. But do I have some good takes sometimes? I do. Just like most of us do. So appreciate you all. Hopefully you like and subscribe. Help us get to 700 subscribers. Catch you all in the next